If you're not aware already, Zekrom is now in Pokemon Go. Yeah, from now until July 7th, you'll have the opportunity to battle and capture Zekrom as a raid boss. And you're definitely going to want to go out for this one because Zekrom is actually really good in raids, and more importantly, phenomenal in Master League PvP. In this video, I'm going to go over the best counters to the Zekrom Raid, comparing them graphically for you. And I'm also going to cover why Zekrom's good in raids and why it's good in Master League PvP. Sorry this video is a little bit later than what I'd like it to be. Had some stuff I had to take care of at home here, and also Mega Pokemon announcement has kind of pushed me back. I was like, Megas, typing in all sorts of numbers, and then I realized it was like 8 at night, and I was too tired to make the video. So here I have a graph of Zekrom's raid counters using all of Zekrom's movesets averaged. If you're not aware, Zekrom has Dragon Breath and Charge Beam for fast moves, and then for the charge moves we got Crunch, Wild Charge, Outrage, and Flash Cannon. At a base, this does mean that Zekrom is going to be a much more aggressive raid boss to fight than Reshiram. Reshiram using single bar charge moves, Zekrom for the most part using multi-bar charge moves. Like Outrage fighting against these dragon type Pokemon, it's gonna be a nightmare. You all remember Outrage Rayquaza, right? Yeah, try bringing dragons into this. This guy's like a little bit tougher, so good luck. Now all the Pokemon featured, unless stated otherwise, are at level 40. Same with weather and friendship and being a shadow or not. All that stuff should be marked. If it's not marked, assume it's the base form. And no dodging and best friendship. So you and a best friend getting that bonus in the raid. The x-axis here is total damage output, so the average percent of damage you will take from the raid boss with one species of Pokemon before it goes down on average. So you can think of it as a more useful metric for tankiness. So the more to the right a Pokemon is, the more tanky they're going to be on average for this raid. And then damage per second is the y-axis. So the higher up you are, the faster you should be able to take down this raid boss. And with DPS, we do have the Duo DPS cutoff line. So if you and your partner are above the Duo DPS line, that suggests that you should be able to do the Duo against Zekrom, provided of course all the Pokemon you're using are above the Duo DPS line. Now I do want to highlight to you guys that the TDO scaling here is correct, but the numbers are off. I don't know what's up with Go Battle Sim, or maybe I punched in something in wrong, but these are not the correct numbers for TDO. So don't base relobbying off of this. I know very few of you do, but these numbers are off. But the relationship of the Pokemon to each other, the scaling, that's still correct. So don't worry about that. Everything looks fine, but these exact numbers are a little bit off there. The DPS, however, is fine. DPS is good. That's on the money there. But yeah, putting this all together for you guys at home, the more up and to the right a Pokemon is, the better it's going to be for the Zekrom Raid boss. So the question becomes, who are the best overall counters to the Zekrom Raid? Well, the Shadow Dragons up here do have the best DPS, but they are very fragile. So when Zekrom's whipping out all those rapid action charge moves, they'll go down very quickly, especially against Outrage. They just get straight bodied there. So unless you're striving for the Duo really hard without like a weather bonus or something, then these guys are pretty good, but they might not be the best general answer for, you know, the general population out here. On the other end of the spectrum, we do have Garchomp without a weather bonus being quite good in the DPS department using the Dragon Tail Outrage moveset. But its DPS is a bit lower than the other dragons are. And if you do happen to be up against the Outrage moveset in particular, then Garchomp really is no better than the other dragon type Pokemon. Garchomp gets a lot of this swag here because of the Wild Charge moveset, so yeah. So then I guess you do have the smorgasbord of general dragon type Pokemon with I guess Shadow Weavile sneaking on in there, and yeah, they're all fine for this raid. Just keep in mind that if you are up against the Outrage moveset on the Zekrom, they are going to faint very quickly, but they're not going to faint so quickly like the Shadow Dragons will that you won't be able to get off a lot of charge moves. They'll at least be able to get some licks in before going down, which is nice. Of course, if you do know you are up against the Outrage moveset, you could go with Fairy-type Pokemon such as Gardevoir or Togekiss. Outside of getting a Cloudy Weather bonus on their damage, they're not that impressive, but they're not going to be fainting super quickly, so it could be really easy to use those guys in a raid if you know you are up against the Outrage moveset. Or maybe slotting one or two in the back of your party as like an anchor of sorts, just for general raiding. Of course, you do have the Shadow Gardevoir to look at, which is very powerful in DPS, as good as the other ones are. And if you are up against the Outrage moveset in particular, then yeah, Shadow Gardevoir is much better than presented here on average. It's like kind of like over here, if you want to reference. It's still a fragile Pokemon, so even with the double resist in, it's going to go down pretty quick, but yeah, pretty good here. And then if it gets the Cloudy Weather bonus, it does end up being kind of the best counter to this raid. So Cloudy Weather, Shadow Gardevoir, if you got it maxed out, Shazam. But whoa, holy smokes, what's up here? Is that Mega Rayquaza? Yeah, no, there was an announcement that Mega Pokemon are coming soon to Pokemon Go. We don't know how they're going to implement the Mega Pokemon yet. Is it going to be a temporary buff, or are they just going to use like translated stats from the main series games? Here you can see that the Mega Rayquaza is using the translated stats from the main series games with the 9% nerf applied to it for Pokemon that go over 4,000 CP. All 4,000 CP Pokemon get a 9% nerf to their stats. So this is post-tax, right? And yeah, no, Mega Ray standing above the Shadow Dragons with 32.6 DPS, off the charts. So yeah, pretty cool. If he comes out, when he comes out, if this is how it's implemented, there is Mega Rayquaza. As far as other mystery Pokemon on this graphic are concerned, we do have the unreleased Kyurem Black. We don't know when it's coming in. I believe it is a mythic Pokemon, so it might be handled sort of like Regigigas is, or, you know, the Deoxys with the EX raids. You know, I expect that coming from Kyurem Black. But Kyurem Black is the Dragon King before Mega Rayquaza comes on in. And then here we have the unreleased Zen form of the Galar Darmanitan. I just recolored Darmanitan sprite because I don't have a Galar Darmanitan sprite, let alone the Crazy Snowman sprite. But this is the Crazy Snowman here, not released in the game, best ice type attacker, and you can see it is on the level of the Shadow Dragons, or a weather boosted Shadow Gardevoir. So if/when that guy comes out, it'll be pretty crazy too. Just some funsies there if you want a reference for more powerful Pokemon. Now if you're sitting back and wondering like, Ryan Swag, what are these like symbols going on here? What's that all mean? Well, the suns and the clouds, right? This is clear weather bonus, and this is cloudy weather bonus. So cloudy weather Shadow Gardevoir performing here, and then clear weather Excadrill, all sorts of clear weather ground types over here as well. So if you want to know how well they're performing with the weather bonus. As far as clear weather is concerned, I'm actually really impressed with Excadrill, and I also said this with the Reshiram raid. Yeah, Excadrill goes from like 0 to freaking hero with a weather bonus. So if you want to stock up on a couple like 15 attack IV Excadrills, you know, you caught them at level 35 with a weather bonus, power them up twice. A very good general budget pick for the Zekrom raid, of course, using the drill run. And then the little flag there, that looks like the best buddy symbol. Yeah, no, so breakpoints, right? If a Pokemon crosses over a certain level, they can get 1 extra damage to their fast move, which significantly boosts their performance in raids, right? Well, a best buddy bonus effectively gives a Pokemon 2 power-ups. So if you have a 15 IV Pokemon with level 40, and it's your best buddy, it's effectively level 41, which can allow some Pokemon to reach a new level of power with these breakpoints. So Rayquaza, in all weather forms, gets this breakpoint, and then the Rhyperior with Mud Slap, and the Groudon with the Mud Shot, they also get these specific breakpoints, but under clear weather. So if you already have either of these 3 Pokemon as your best buddy already, when you do go into the raid with clear weather, or I guess any weather in terms of Rayquaza, having it set as your best buddy can allow you to do more damage, which can be nice. And if you want to start walking these guys now for the future, these best buddy breakpoints are the same exact best buddy breakpoints for Reshiram, so you'd have 2 raids covered for the future for the price of walking 1 best buddy. So could be worth thinking about, especially since the Rayquaza here can start to edge above the duo DPS line, making it a bit more viable for duos. Bringing the focus back to Garchomp here, the ones with the suns next to it are weather boosted Garchomp, so you can see in clear weather, the best moveset for Garchomp will be Dragon Tail and Earthquake. With the clear weather bonus, the Mudshot Earthquake is only as good as the Dragon Tail Outrage set. So Mudshot really isn't doing a whole lot for Garchomp for the Zekrom raid. The Dragon Tail is really going to be where it's at. So if you are using your Master League PvP Garchomps, which use the Mudshot, and you don't want to spend the Fast TM to get Dragon Tail for the raid sets, well, this is where you can expect the performance of your Garchomp being. Another example here is the Mudshot Outrage set will only be as good as a level 31 Dragon Tail Outrage Garchomp. So just something to think about. If you're not interested in trying to push the limits of your damage in this raid, you're fine doing it with like 4 or 5 people. Nothing you have to worry about, but just something to know if it comes up. And then final point of intrigue for this graphic here is, yeah, Mudslap Mamoswine being better than Powder Snow Mamoswine. That's pretty interesting. Mudslap did get a buff a couple months ago, and it really hasn't come up for raids yet until now. And yeah, Mudslap does more damage than Powder Snow does. So what's with the discrepancy in TDO here? Well, when I do these simulations, I'm doing 3 cloned Pokemon going into the fight together here, since the trio is super easy. And the Mudslap does more damage, which means Zekrom is going to get the charge moves more quickly, which means that the Mamoswines here are going to be fainting a bit more quickly than the Powder Snow ones will be. In a more general practice situation, I'd expect the gap in TDO between these two Pokemon to be a little bit more close, because, you know, there's more variable energy happening in the raids. And yeah, so that's the Zekrom raid. If you are interested in doing the duo, I highly recommend running some simulations of your own and like checking stuff out, you know, outside of this graph. This graph is just to get your feet wet. A lot of these duos are moveset specific. So if you got like, I don't know how you would, but if you have like 12 Shadow Dragons maxed out, 15 attack IV, everything, you might not be successful against the Outrage moveset just because it's going to KO them so quickly. Similarly, you can see that Garchomp with the weather bonus over here is beneath the duo DPS line, but if you are up against the Wild Charge moveset specifically, then the Garchomps are fine to do the duo. They're actually really easy to do a duo with if you are up against the Wild Charge moveset and you got the Clear Weather bonus. So it can be a little bit testy if you can do the duo or not. So just don't take this graph for granted here, right? By the way, before I get onto the raid section, usually I include more breakpoints. Well, the dragons all have breakpoints at like level 37, level 38, and then they drop down to like level 20. And because there's such a concentrated cluster of them, it just became really gross looking to do. In fact, even Garchomp over here has like a level 37.5, I think, breakpoint on the Dragon Tail, but it's equivalent to the level 40. So yeah, it was just pretty messy there. If you're interested in what their breakpoints are, you can always use the breakpoint calculator on GamePress, or you can check out the article on Zekrom and its use in the meta, which is coming up on GamePress soon. I don't believe it's up right now, but they said they're working on the page. I sent them the document. You can see the document right here, right? And yeah, it should be on the page soon, but it does have a nice breakpoint table for you guys, including weather breakpoints. So yeah, check that out. Link in the description. It'll be up when it's up. Now, time to talk about Zekrom in the meta. So using the DPS TDO spreadsheet on GamePress here, you can see that Zekrom is in 5th place as far as electric type DPS is concerned, beneath all the shadow Pokemon and Mega Manectric, if Mega Manectric just uses translated stats from the main series games. It's above it in DPS. But you can see that Zekrom does have that swaggy TDO, which is tankiness, right? So if you sort this by DPS to the 3rd power times TDO, which is just kind of like a general tool for understanding a Pokemon's overall goodness, yeah, you can see Zekrom's still 4th place, right? Yeah, no, it's beneath Shadow Raikou, Shadow Eevire, and Shadow Zapdos, which is a bit unfortunate. But there is a silver lining to this, and that is that Zekrom is not a shadow Pokemon. So it's easier to obtain, easier to get good IVs for, easier to power up. You can lucky trade for a Zekrom as well. So Zekrom does have a lot going for it in that respect. And then aside from Shadow Raikou, Zekrom is basically competitive performance DPS to the 3rd power times TDO wise to the other electric type Pokemon above it. So I think Zekrom is definitely a worthwhile investment. And then unlike these shadow electric type Pokemon, Zekrom is really good in Master League PvP. So I think all these factors combined make it a decent investment for that. Then when it comes to the dragon side of the force, I have too many Mega Dragons added on here. Yeah, if the Megas come in and they have their translated stats with the 9% nerf, I guess the Zekrom's not making the front page here. Sorry, Zekrom. Oh yeah, and the Shadows. And then of course Shadow Salamence and then Shadow Mega Salamence taking up 2 slots. Come on, man. But yeah, if you go to page 2, you can see Zekrom is a bit better than Dragonite is. It has a Dragon Breath Outrage moveset, so it is doing that multi-bar charge move Outrage damage, which is pretty good. So Zekrom is definitely a solid Dragon-type Pokemon. I mean, if you want to go back to the Zekrom counter graph, you can see that Zekrom is swinging with the best of them as far as a Dragon-type attacker goes. So I think Zekrom, pretty solid. And the time's come now for PvP Master League. PvP, Zekrom. I can't remember when I told you guys about this. It was a while back though. but I was like, Zekrom's going to change the meta. That Master League meta ain't going to be the same after Zekrom. So to help illustrate the changes that Zekrom's going to bring to the table here, I'm going to use my Master League simplified graphic. Now this graphic does not include the Aquatail Palkia, and it also doesn't include Fire Punch Groudon. This is OG Groudon. With those two Pokemon and Zekrom combined, I am going to be updating my Master League Simplified guide, so if you want to check that out, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'm also going to be doing a Premier Cup Simplified video soon as well, so if you want that info, subscribe to SwagTips. But just to illustrate the effect that Zekrom has on the meta that we already know, I'm just going to use this graphic for you guys, right? So as far as the core meta is concerned, Zekrom's doing pretty swag. It beats this guy here. Oh, whoa, I've never used this before. That's like a paintbrush. Holy shoot. And it's transparency? Dang. So it beats Kyogre. It beats Kyogre, and then it beats the Steel-type Pokemon. Zekrom straight up dominates these two groups. Like Melmetal, what's Melmetal going to do to Zekrom? It's going to do nothing. Now you might be sitting back and thinking, Ryan Swag, that Palkia does that same kind of job. Dominates Kyogre, beats the Steel-type Pokemon pretty well. Why won't I just use Palkia? Well, Zekrom beats Palkia. Yeah, so taste it, Palkia. Zekrom's in town now. Now, as far as the Giratinas are concerned, right, Zekrom dominates the Shadow Claw variants, but if this boy here, the altered form, has Dragon Breath, then the Dragon Breath moveset is going to rip right through it, and it'll win that Dragon Breath race, you know? Zekrom using Dragon Breath, this guy using Dragon Breath. And then also, if Giratina Altered Form has a Best Buddy defense breakpoint on it, so rare Best Buddied Altered Form of Giratina here. Well, then it gets a defense breakpoint on Zekrom's Dragon Breath, allowing it to overcome the Zekrom, even with Shadow Claws. So this guy can be a little risky, but for the most part, Zekrom's going to beat its ass.
Tushy.
And yeah, these electric types, they're canceled. So what beats Zekrom? Well, first line of defense for Zekrom we have is the Ice Beam, Side Strike Mewtwo. We got Garchomp, we got Groudon, and then we also have the Swampert here. Thing is that they beat it in all shield situations, except for Garchomp in the 2-shield situation because Dragon Breath damage. But in the 2-shield situation as well, for the other Pokemon here, if they don't get their baiting right, if they can't shield bait Zekrom or land their KOing attacks on Zekrom, Zekrom can overcome them in the 2-shield situation. So these 4 can be a little bit risky of counters to the Zekrom, even the mighty Groudon with the Fire Punch if it's not getting those Fire Punch baits. Another risky kind of counter to consider for the Zekrom raid is also the Dragonite. Dragonite generally should beat the Zekrom, but if Dragonite uses Dragon Claw and Zekrom decides to not throw a charge move in response, well then it gets the extra fast move it needs to take down the Dragonite. So it is a Dragon Breath race between those two Pokemon, and every fast move counts in that matchup. More consistent counters to the Zekrom are going to include this bad boy right here, the Dialga, needs no introduction. The Togekiss, of course. We also have Rhyperior, and we also have the Snorlax. Now, as far as Togekiss and Dialga goes, yeah, these two Pokemon just straight up dominate it. I mean, Togekiss uses 1 shield, you're not going to reach another charge move, it's just going to beat your butt to oblivion. And then Dialga, it's the Dragon Breath user that isn't weak to Dragon Breath. So clearly Dialga gonna dominate you. On top of that, Dialga does get that Best Buddy defense breakpoint on your Dragon Breath as well. So a Best Buddy Dialga is gonna absolutely dominate you. So be wary of that. When it comes to Rhyperior, interesting thing I want to show you on PvPoke here. So putting Zekrom and Rhyperior here into Master League PvP on PvPoke, you can see that the Rhyperior should win the 1-shield situation, but you may notice that Zekrom is mighty close to another charge move. So if you were to like lead Zekrom or swap into Zekrom and your opponent responded with a Rhyperior, you'd at least get 1 Dragon Breath in that, you know, transition. And with that, you're going to be reaching your next crunch, which allows you to overcome Rhyperior in the 1-shield situation. So Rhyperior is going to have to take it a little bit cautiously when it comes to the Zekrom. Of course, if you go into the 2-shield situation, that Mud Slap damage is just going to rip right through it. And I don't know why I said Snorlax is a more consistent counter before, because it ain't. Yeah, no, Snorlax is also a Bait King Supreme risky kind of option here. Basically, Snorlax has to avoid getting hit by Wild Charge, and it really wants to land the Earthquake in order to beat the Zekrom. That said, if a Snorlax were to go straight Body Slam while also avoiding getting hit by a Wild Charge, then Snorlax could surprise KO a Zekrom, expecting to, like, try to bait for an earthquake. So it's like, oh, that's not an earthquake. I'm going to let the body slam through. That thing lets 2 body slams through, then Snorlax can 2-shield it. So just something to keep in mind, some Snorlax tech there. Not a super consistent counter to the Zekrom. The ice types, also very good counters to the Zekrom. Of course, circumstances depending as far as how quickly they can reach their charge moves. Mamoswine does not give a heck about electric type attacks. And then these guys, I don't even know why they're here. They're canceled. These 2 are canceled. They're not going to be in the next graphic. They're gone. So overall, what does this mean for Zekrom in the Master League meta? Well, it does lose to Dialga. No getting around that. So if it's a Dragon Breath user that loses to Dialga, what's the whole point of using it? Well, for all the other things that it does. I mean, it beats counters to the Dialga and can finesse, can tango with, and can bait in other counters to Dialga, so it could definitely pave the way for a nice clean Dialga sweep should you use it. So I think that's the way Zekrom is going to be used in concert with the Dialga, bait in those counters or would-be counters, possibly subdue them outright, and pave the way for Dialga domination. Of course, if you don't want to monkey with any of this in Season 2, we do have the Premier Cup. Now, if you do want to know the new Master League Simplified or you want the Premier Cup Simplified, I do have videos on that coming out soon. I do have a Premier Cup primer for you as well if you want to check that out. Link in the description. It's a couple months old, but nothing has changed so far. So it's the expected meta for the Premier Cup, unless something happens within the next month here. And that's basically all you need to know about Zekrom. As far as the raid is concerned, it is going to be a pretty difficult raid, at least compared to Reshiram, because it is whipping out all those charge moves. So do expect to do some re-lobbies there, but definitely not indomitable. You can beat it with 3 people relatively comfortably, and if you're with some randos, maybe you want 5 or 6 people so you don't get into some weird disputes. And then as far as its raid and PvP performance are concerned, it might not be the best dragon or electric type attacker, but it is very powerful in both roles. And then on top of that, it's got really good performance in Master League PvP, a really good complement to the Dialga, even though it doesn't counter the Dialga, beats like everything else, am I right? So yeah, those 2 things combined, you probably want to get a really good Zekrom to power up, or at least have the option to power up should you want to use it. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support the Swagman on Patreon, do it. And before I forget, another top Master League Pokemon you should be aware of is Ryan Swag. Yeah, even with only 1,337 CP, it straight dominates the Zekrom matchup. It's actually pretty absurd. You can see here that Zekrom has no chance against Ryan Swag. Breakpoints, not happening. So yeah, and that's just because Ryan Swag is so bulky with the 1,337 stamina there. That's right, folks. Ryan Swag hacked PvPoke. You want to know about Mega Pokemon and PvP? Ain't nobody gonna give it to you like this but the Swag Man. I mean, Matt could, but he ain't gonna. And it's actually gonna be really annoying to enter in all the stats. So we'll see how fast we get there.